welcome to the show, Seth Appert.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on. Marty, I couldn't agree more. The goalies are the smartest people in the world.
And the better looking, too. So,
did you put that on your resume, Seth?
Yep, that was on my resume. But the problem is, Andrew, if you saw us play Michigan 95-96, then you saw Jeff Blashill and myself both play, because every time we played Michigan, we like to say when we played at Yost Arena, nobody high-fived more than me and Blash, because one of us was getting pulled and the other guy was going in.
Listen, you guys, I'm not kidding you, it was Ferris State. And you guys, whoever the goalies were that were in net, got abused by the fans. I mean, verbally abused.
Yeah, no, that happened. I used a lot. They had some pretty good teams back then, and that was a hard place to play, but one of the great places to play in college hockey.
That was the night that made me realize I wanted to play college hockey. There were two things that I didn't have going for me: grades and skating. So I wasn't getting in, but what an amazing atmosphere. Anyway, listen, congratulations on the new job. Obviously, you're very excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I appreciate it. Really, really excited and grateful for the opportunity, for the belief, that Terry and Kim Pagula and Kevin Adams and Ralph Kruger have placed in me, and excited to get to work.
Now let me ask you, Seth, you have coached at the college level and also in a development role with the NTDP, but this is your first time coaching at the pro level. What is the one thing you will focus on, or you think will be much different from your past experiences to now moving in with pro players?
I think that it's going to be more similar to the national program than it is to college. In terms of the schedule, we played 65 games a year at the national team. You only play 35 or 40 in college. So I think it's going to be more similar to that. But the biggest difference, right, is going to be the age, right? That they're men. Now in the American League, a lot of them are more in the 19 to 24-year-old range, but they are men, and they need to be treated like men, and you need to have those direct, honest conversations. They want to know where they stand, and I don't think it's going to be dramatically different, but it will be different in that regard. Obviously, fighting's not a massive part of the game anymore, but that element does exist more in pro than it has in the levels I've coached, right? So some of those things I'm going to have to adjust to, and that's where calling guys that have been through it before, friends of mine like Jeff Blashill or John Cooper, and leaning on Ralph and his staff and then my assistants is going to be critical for me.
Seth Appert, new coach of the Rochester Americans, joins the Instigators here. Can you take us through what a coaching or what a job interview is like? As much as you can, what you like, do you pitch a coaching style, your system ideas, how you like to coach, like things like that? Like what kind of things go into it when you're going into a coaching interview?
Well, nothing's normal in 2020, right? So the first thing is it's not in person, right? It's on Zoom. So that was weird enough in itself, that now you're on Zoom and you don't get to have that personal interaction and be able to feel the room as much as you do in person. So, but the interviews were great. It started with Kevin. It evolved into Kevin and Ralph. Ralph individually at time for one, both of them for another one, and it wasn't as much systematics as much as philosophy on leadership, on style of play, on the mindset of development and what really development means to me. And I think that those were more of the areas of focus than tactics. And as we went through the process over the month or whatever it was, I think all three of us felt that philosophically, as people, as leaders, and as hockey people, all three of us have very similar thoughts to how to teach, coach, and lead young men.
So in saying that, when you look at the roster, if you're just joining us, Seth Appert, new coach of the Rochester Americans, joining Marty and myself on the Instigators. So in saying that, when you look at the roster and taking over the team, do you look at it? Do you have an idea of which players you'll have? I know it's going to be tough, and we don't even know what's going to happen with the AHL, but have you already started to build a lineup of players that you expect to have and players that you expect to have time to develop?
Yes, we just started having those meetings this week. Had a Zoom call with Kevin and getting an understanding of what it's likely to look like, right? And the beauty of hockey is players get to change that, right? And so if players go to training camp and demand that they should be in Buffalo, then good for them. Then they've earned that spot. That's great. So, but I think I have a pretty good understanding and a framework of what the roster will look like, probably 75% of it, and who we're going to get a chance to work with. And it excites me that there's some real good young prospects down there that we need to do a good job and helping take the next step in readiness to go play in the National Hockey League. A lot of the guys that are going to get called up, they're not going in to take Jack Eichel's spot or play on Eichel's line. They're going in to fill roles and play on a third or fourth line and play on a fifth or sixth D pair. And those guys that get called up, they need to have the habits and the things in their game that make them NHL ready so they can transfer into that lineup immediately and help the Sabres win.
No, I apologize in advance if this has been out and announced or not. I mean, there's games going on at all times of days, and the NHL, and we're paying attention to that. But what about your staff? Like the people that you're going to bring on, the assistant coaches. Like what kind of staff you're looking to build, and what is that going to look like?
It's a good question. No, we have not announced that. We're going through that right now. I've been talking to, I'm probably going to talk to around 20 guys through the next, I've already talked to some, but through the next week, have conversations, narrow that list down, and then get a little more serious and in-depth from there. So, I certainly understand that it would be great to have pro experience with me. I have a lot of coaching experience, a lot of development experience. I don't have pro experience, and so you want to build a staff that's going to complement you and offset some of your areas of weakness, right? So I understand that's an area that I haven't done, and so you'd like to build a staff that can complement me in that area. So some guys with some pro experience. I think ideally we'd have a coach that is very comfortable working with the forwards and one that's very comfortable working with the defensemen, because it's critical that these young men get developments, and some of that development is on the ice in practice with habits and skills. Some of that's in video meetings individually and collectively. So if I could script it, I'd have assistants that have a little bit more pro experience than I do, whether that's playing or coaching, that can work with forwards and defensemen, but most importantly that they're great men, they're great role models for our players, and they're great teachers, because these guys are in the American League for a reason, because they're not NHL ready yet, and we need to do a good job making them NHL ready for the Sabres organization.
I have an idea, and you have to really open your mind up to it. But
here's Marty's job resume, Seth. Here comes Marty's job resume.
That's just not just mine, PD. Wait until you hear this. You talked about the fighting, the physicality. I think Andrew Peters would be a great part of the staff. Somebody that can deal with the defense, and Craig Rivet would be great. I mean, I can do a little bit of everything. So as long as we can not have anything between 10 and 12 from Monday through Friday, so we can do the radio show, and we're free. We can definitely support you in all of your endeavors.
You guys
Seth, you don't have to worry about that. I banned myself from coaching.
You guys can do the show. You can put the headsets on and do the show from practice live.
No. Listen, I do want to ask you about a player that you did coach that is in the Sabres system, and that's Matthias Samuelsson. He signed, did he not?
Yes.
There's been so much. Yeah. So you'll have him this year in Rochester. Where does he project for you? I mean, he's going to be a guy that I think the Sabres are going to be keeping a close eye on.
Yeah, no, he's an outstanding player. He was my captain my first year here at the national team. He's a rock defensively, 6'4", big, physical, mean, smart defender. He was one of the best defenders in the world in that 2000 birth year. He had all the hard assignments for us He had to go against Svechnikov and Kakko and all the best players in the world when we went to those international tournaments, and we had to win that defending. We were not a prolific offensive team. We won a lot of games 3-2, 2-1, and we leaned on Matthias a ton. He's a leader. He's going to be a great pro. He's got the right mindset for it, and if I get the opportunity to coach him again, I'd be thrilled because he's the kind of guy you want to go to battle with. He's the kind of guy that you win with.
Now, how about, like, you talk about Matthias, but obviously he comes from a great lineage of hockey players. Like his dad, Charles Samuelson, was a beast with the Flyers. Like, when you have a player like this, and then their dad has had a successful career in the National Hockey League, is there conversation with the dad as well, or is it mostly I focus on the player and the kid and that's all it is?
No, we had a lot of conversations with parents when I was at the national team. I think that the more, right, the players, especially young players, they have a lot of voices in their life, right? And one of their voices is their coaches, one is their parents, one's their agents, one might be who knows, it might be a wife or a girlfriend, right? And the more you can line up those voices and that they're saying similar messages and they're on the same page, I think the more clarity the player has. So when you got a guy like Matthias Samuelson, or when you have a player like Jack Hughes, or when you, I just recently had Thomas Bordelot, whose dad Sebastian was a great pro and is in the Nashville player development system, right? Jake Sanderson, whose dad was a great pro, played 1,100 games. When you have dads like that, you want to use them. They're a resource, and you want to pick their brains, and you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Because the more that everybody can be on the same page for the player, the more clarity the player has. And usually, when a player has clarity, they can play a lot better hockey.
Seth Appert joining us, new head coach of the Rochester Americans. We only have a couple more minutes. I'll say this, like the Sabres make that pick at 8 this year, and I know you can't say much about it. I'd love to see them pick Jake Sanderson. We had his dad on. I know you coached him. Can you tell us a little bit about him as a player? Just because he's the highest ranked player that you had on your team this year. And also, a little tidbit for you, a Mr. Lukey Tuck lived with me for a year.
Oh, he did. How about that? I loved coaching this team. This was, I could easily make an argument for myself that this is the favorite group of men that I've ever coached. This group, they gave each other so much. We became a great team, a dominant team by playing the hard way, by being hard to play against, physical, demanding. And Jake led that, right? And Luke Tuck was a big reason for that too, with the presence he played. But Jake is, in my mind, the best defender in the world, the best defenseman in the world in this draft. He's a special leader, and his work ethic and his character is off the charts. So he was a real pleasure to coach, and he comes from a great family. His dad's first class, and what a tremendous pro career his father had as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Tucky in there too, because he's like a son to me. So I would have been disappointed if he didn't. Yeah, he lived with me when he played here. His 16U. Well, he was 15, but he was playing 16U with the Junior Sabres the year before he went on to play with you at the NTDP. So unbelievable family.
Yeah, I've known the Tuck family for a long time. I spent 2 years trying to chase Alex around rinks, trying to convince him to come to RPI. When it became time to look at the national team, I told Carl Tuck that I might say no to Luke, just like Alex said no to me.
Well, hey, I'll tell you what. There's another guy in Buffalo searching for Alex Tuck too. His name's Craig Rivet, and if you can find him, you guys could have some great conversations. Listen, thank you so much for your time today, and good luck with the Amerks and everything going forward. And we'll chat with you soon.
Thanks for having me on, guys.